In the rich and populous village of Alaku lived a king, King Okeke. As the last male in his family, he desperately sought for sons after his marriage to Ekene, though his male cousins secretly celebrated it, hoping to inherit the throne. This made him more desperate for a son, as only sons could inherit the throne in Alaku village. He wanted just 4 children of 3 sons and a daughter, but the first to 4th children were females. He refused to take another wife, so Ekene, his wife and queen, got pregnant for the 5th. In her 7th month, when the midwife came to check on her, she paused and rubbed the queen's belly again to be sure. He kicks like a little warrior, but calm like a princess. I'm uncertain, but either way, I'm certain the gods may smile on you this time, the midwife said, looking at the queen kindly. This lightened up the queen's mood. Her servants were certain that the midwife definitely brought good news. She slept longer than usual and even visited her garden that she hasn't visited in weeks. With this news, the royal household started looking forward to the delivery day. The king sacrificed 10 big cows to the gods. The queen made plans with the palace servants for a little party on the day of her child's delivery. All was set to receive the long-awaited heir. One night the king was awoken by the cry of his wife, the queen. It's here," she wailed. Few hours later, the king got news that he could come see his child. Ekene, the queen, was asleep when the king came to see their newborn child. He lifted up the child and screamed, "My heir is here." The gods be praised. The queen, already awake, looked at him smiling. The king hugged and pecked her. "The gods have answered us," he said happily. He was about to hand over the child to the midwife when he paused and asked, "Why can't I feel his feet?" "He is without feet, my lord," the midwife replied with pity in her voice. "What do you mean?" he asked as he opened the baby's shawl to confirm. Then he angrily handed the baby to the midwife and ordered one of his guards, "Get rid of him before sunrise tomorrow." He walked to his wife, held her closely, and whispered, "We'd wait for another. This is a curse." Then he walked out of the room. Only the midwife and a trusted palace guard were aware of the king's order to kill the deformed child. The rest of the kingdom were told that the king's son was stillborn. The once elated royal house became quiet with grief. The queen was a strong woman. In a few days, she cheerfully returned to her daughters and duties. Igwe Okeke will rather be without an heir than have a deformed one. He only encouraged his wife to have hope that the gods will give them their heart's desire. "But Igwe, we're not getting younger, and the people are talking," Ekene, the queen, said as she and the king sit in their living room one afternoon. "I know, my wife, but you can still reproduce. That's proof of the mercies of the gods. There's hope, my dear," the king said. The queen birthed 9 children, 6 girls and 3 sons. But the 3 sons were murdered at birth because they were all born deformed, and the king believed he was terminating a curse to his family early. This pained the queen, but there was nothing she could do. The queen got pregnant the 10th time. "Mama, how long will you continue doing this?" Adaora, her first child and daughter, asked one day as she braided her mother's hair. The queen was silent for a while before she replied, "My dear, as long as it takes for me to birth a befitting heir for the kingdom." "And when do you think that will be?" Adaora asked rhetorically. "Mama, I believe there's something you can do. You're a wise woman. You always have the solution for any problem. Why is this different? You're only blinded by your love and devotion to our father." Later that night, the words of Ada kept bugging the queen's mind. Why does this girl's words sound like counsel from the gods? Thunder rolled ominously across the night sky as Queen Amara paced her chambers, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Her 10th pregnancy was nearing its end, and fear gripped her heart. The next morning was the day for the midwife to check for the sex of the baby. "You need to rest more, my queen," the midwife said. "The gods have smiled on the royal house again, but please be cautious and careful," she added. "Why are my babies born with deformities?" the queen asked worriedly. "I'm constantly plagued by the fear that this one may be deformed too. I no longer want to bury another child," the queen lamented. "The gods are mysterious. May we receive the wisdom to understand their ways," the midwife prayed as she walked the queen back to her hut. "Mama, what portion did Nana, the midwife, give to you to make you this happy?" her daughters asked as she walked into their room to check up on them. The queen only smiled and said nothing. "Have a good night's rest," she said as she walked out of their room. In her chambers, she held her womb and whispered to her baby, "You'll live, little one. I'm keeping you." The next day, she called for her special midwife. "My queen, I was told you needed me urgently. Hope you and the baby are in good health," the midwife asked, concerned. "We are in good health, Nana. Please sit. I only want to discuss something very important with you. It's about my unborn child." "The child could be another son, Nana," Amara whispered, her voice breaking. "And if he is..." She couldn't finish the sentence. The memories of her 3 dead sons haunted her daily. "I don't want to lose him like the others," the queen said. "The gods forbid the loss of another son," the midwife added. "Yes, Nana, the gods have already, but you have a role to play," the queen said, looking at her. "I'm always at your service, my queen. I'll do whatever is necessary to preserve our heir." "Then, let's not allow the king this time. I believe my baby will be sound. But in case he happens to be deformed, here's what we shall do." The queen then signaled Nana closer and whispered something in her ears. They both looked at each other and smiled. Ekene's day of delivery finally came. The birth came during a raging storm. As if the gods themselves were providing cover, the thunder masked the baby's first cries. Queen Amara bit down on a cloth to stifle her screams as Flora and 2 trusted midwives attended her. "A son," the older midwife announced, her face grave as she examined the infant. "But his feet, my queen." "Give him to me," Amara demanded, arms outstretched. When his eyes met hers, they were sharp and alert. "He's perfect," she breathed and kissed him. She immediately signaled Nana to take him away before the king came. With her plan, she was able to hide and raise the boy secretly. He was taken to the midwife's children living in another village and raised there until he was 10 years. At his 10th birthday, he was brought back to Alaku. At Alaku, he stayed with the midwife. When people asked, she told them that he was her grandson. The queen secretly visited and cared for him. Through the midwife, she hired the best of teachers to train and teach him in matters of the kingdom. She ensured he was better than his deformity made him. The midwife also brings him to the palace, claiming the queen was fond of her grandson. The princesses loved Obi too and cared for him like the brother they never had. He knew they were his family because the queen told him, but the princesses thought he was just Nana's grandson. At 20, Obi already thought and acted like a leader. Despite his physical limitations, his mind was sharp as a blade. Meanwhile, the king grew older, and his younger cousins grew more impatient, anticipating the day they would inherit the throne. The queen, on the other hand, prepared her son. At different times, the king would say, "Since it pleased the gods that my cousins inherit the throne, we'll have to accept it." He wasn't happy. The queen knew he only covered it bravely, but she held herself from saying anything about Obi at the wrong time. Obi was 26 years old when the king summoned the village council of chiefs to discuss matter of succession. Present were the king, the queen, their daughters, and the king's eager cousins. Obi was also present, but not in the hall. "Now we present our nominees for the throne," the head council chief said. In Alaku village, only the king, queen, and head of council could nominate. The king went first. "I nominate Ugo, my younger cousin, as heir." Ugo smiled greedily. The queen stood up, bowed before her husband and said, "My lord, please forgive me." Then she turned and said, "I nominate Obi." Murmurings filled the hall as all wondered who she was talking about. As they looked at her, Obi, limping, walked in and bowed before the king. Then the queen said, "My king, the gods in their mercy left you a surviving heir to succeed your throne." Ugo, the king's younger cousin, leaped to his feet, his face twisted in outrage. "This is preposterous. A crippled bastard cannot inherit the throne. The other villages will mock us." The head of the council raised a hand, silencing the commotion. "Ugo, will you be quiet and let the queen speak?" Ekene stood tall, her eyes unwavering. "My lord, this is your 10th child, your 4th son. 20 years ago, when he was born with feeble feet, I could not bear to see another child of ours killed. With Nana's help, I protected him, raised him in secret. Test him," called out one of the elder council members. "He needs no test," another council chief added. "Is this not the young man known in the village for his wisdom and strength despite his limp? So many youths love him and want to be like him. Being also of royal blood, what more needs to be tested?" "Crown him king, my lord," the chief said and sat down. Finally, the king rose from his throne and approached Obi. The hall held its breath as Igwe Okeke studied his son intently. "He is my son," he screamed. He hugged Obi and said, "Forgive me, my son, for casting you away instead of nurturing you." "Can you forgive an old man's foolishness?" Obi's eyes filled with tears. "There is nothing to forgive, father. The gods work in ways we cannot understand. My son, may the gods strengthen and bless your reign in Alaku," the king said, handing him the staff of authority. As Obi accepted the staff, his sisters rushed forward to embrace him, finally understanding the connection they had felt to the midwife's supposed grandson. The queen watched with tears of joy. Drum rolls signaled the sound of celebration as the whole of Alaku came out for the coronation of Obi.